Thank you. Good evening, students. How are you doing today? So in our last class, which was our first session, we had an introduction of GST, which gave us a basic introduction of the GST. Then slowly we moved on to the important concept, which is the supply. And we had discussed on the supply, right? We had discussed on initial definition of supply, which was very important. We will recapitulate that and we will move forward. Are you all ready for the class? Have you all read the basics of supply? Because in our previous class, we had discussed that if you read some aspects, that will be helpful. So if you have read, that will be very helpful. If not, also, we will try to cover up so that we will understand the topic in a well manner. Nice. Few students have read. That is very good. Awesome. So if you have any queries, stop me in between. Put up your queries so that we can resolve your queries and discuss in detail. If you want me to open the study material, also I could open up on our respective page numbers, whichever you have queries, so that we can answer that queries in a better manner. So we understood how the supply is relevant, why supply is relevant, because supply is a taxable event. Okay, in pre-GST era, we saw that what are the various taxable events. In case of excise, the taxable event was manufacture of goods. In case of customs duty, the taxable event is importation of goods into India. In case of service tax, the taxable event was rendering of service. And under sales tax, the taxable event is transfer of ownership of the goods. Now, the taxable event under GST is when you supply some goods. Okay, when you supply some goods or services or both. So important aspect is supply. There should be a supply. It could be supply of goods or supply of services, or could be supply of goods or services both. There could be an instance where you get both. That is also a supply transaction. Now, what is a supply? Supply, we are saying that that's the taxable event. So of course, that taxable event has to be defined. So if you see the definitions, section 2 is the definition. For all the relevant wordings, various terms are there, which has been defined under section 2. But why do you think section 7 is there to define supply? You understood my question? My question is the definitions. If you see the Bail GST Act, the GST Act section 2, okay, section 2 talks about supply. The section 2 heading itself is definition. Then why is supply, the definition of supply, not included in section 2, but included in a separate special section of section 7? Any wild guesses? Why do you think so? You can ask me, send your reply on Board of Studies app. You could send it on the Zoom link also. Okay, I will tell you why there is a special mention of supply and a separate definition is given of the term supply under section 7, because section 7 doesn't only say that it is a definition of supply. The heading of section 7 is it is a scope of supply, which means supply is very predominant. So it just cannot be defined in a subsection of the main section 2. It needs detailed breakup. It needs a detailed breakdown of the definition. Various permutations and combinations are possible because one, as we understood, there are two things which are relevant for supply. One is it should be in the course of business, and second is there should be a consideration. That is the main requirement. Then there could be permutations in terms of where there is a requirement of only consideration is there, but non-business is permitted. And then the other combination of that, it is for the business, but no consideration. So various options are available. That's the reason all of this has to have a separate definition, separate section. That's why section 7 is specifically there, which defines the term supply, and it also defines the provides the scope of supply. That's why the section 7 is not a definitions section per se. It is a scope of the supply. That's why when you say refer section 7, we will say that section 7 defines the term supply and also provides the scope of supply. Okay. Now, supply includes all form of supply of goods. Section 7. This is the verbatim reading of the section 7. Section 7 says supply includes all forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course or furtherance of business. So what do we understand? The 7.1a defines what is supply. Then it provides 8 special clauses saying that these 8 things are definitely supply. What are those 8 things? Sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, and disposal. Okay, so these 8 terms are there, and these transactions should be made or agreed to be made for a consideration. It means what? If I make any sale of my regular trading goods, I am a trader of, say, laptops, and I have some mouse also in my stock. Now, if I sell a mouse and I don't charge the customer, is it a supply or not a supply? Simple question. A computer or a laptop dealer having one of his accessories. Now, a customer has come and he's bought a laptop. Along with the laptop, he has bought a mouse. Now, the storekeeper, okay, the showroom person has sold the laptop, collected price from him. Now, when he sold this mouse, he has not collected any amount for this. So, should he pay GST on the sale of mouse? Right? Getting correct answers. Yes, it is not a supply and there is no consideration. So it is not a supply because any kind of such supply which is made in the course or furtherance of business, there should be a consideration. In this case, the consideration is absent. So he will not charge GST on this sale of mouse. Okay, based on 7(1)(a). I'm not saying that GST is not. Well, 7(1)(a), we are just restricting here. 7(1)(a) says it should be for a consideration. Now this, there is no consideration, and I'm not doing any charity. I am doing it in the course of furtherance of business. So there is no GST to be levied on the sale of such mouse. Then 7(1)(a) says the activities or transactions by a person other than an individual to its members or constituents, or vice versa, for cash, deferred payment, or other valuable consideration. Which means what? Any kind of activity done by a person other than an individual. Who can this be? This will be a case of an association. Okay, it will be a case of an association, a club, wherein all members come together and form a club. Now, a club does various activities only for its members, because a club is formed by the members, so it can perform services only for its members. So when it is providing some services to its members, okay, there was a dispute saying that I am a member of this club. Club is providing service to me. So this is an internal transaction. It is like taking money from one pocket and putting money in another pocket. I have taken my money from one pocket and put it in another pocket along with others through an association. So why there is a tax? There should not be any tax was the argument. So to bring away that argument saying that this should not reach the courts, so we will bring it in the definition of supply itself. So in the definition of supply itself, they are now bringing in to clarify that any activities done by a club. So a club charges any kind of a service charge, any kind of a supply of goods, which it is doing for its members. It's serving food to its members. On that also GST is applicable. Okay, that is 7(1)(a). Then 7(1)(b) is import of services for a consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, so any kind of importation of services. Importation of services, when you give a consideration, the requirement of it should be in the course or furtherance of business is not there. So on all import of services, when you have a consideration, if you use for a personal use or for your official use, GST is applicable. Then the third thing, 7(1)(c) is the activities which is specified in Schedule 1. For these specific transactions, the supply which is made on consideration is also supply. Okay, so first 7(1)(a) says two requirements. It should be in the course of furtherance of business and there should be a consideration. Then slowly exceptions came in. 7(1)(b) said when you're doing any import of services, now if there is a consideration, even if it is not for the course of furtherance of business, still it will be supply. Then 7(1)(c) came in and it said that, okay, if you do any kind of transaction which is in the course of furtherance of business, but there is no consideration, still some activities which is specified in Schedule 1 will be liable to GST. Then 7(1)(a), 1(a)(1). So there are two 1(a)s. One is 7 subsection 1 clause A, but here it is 7(1)(a) itself, subsection 7 subsection 1(a), where certain activities or transactions constitute a supply in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1. They shall be treated either a supply of goods or a supply of services as referred to in Schedule 2. What is 7(1)(a) saying? That once you categorize something under 7 subsection 1 as a supply, then they should either be treated as supply of goods or treated as supply of services. Not that definition अगर supply में cover हो गया है तो सब कुछ goods है या सब कुछ services है, ये तय नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है, तो उसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा, आपको क्लासिफिकेशन में जाना पड़ेगा शेड्यूल 2 में, ये देखने के लिए कि गुड्स किसको बोलते हैं और सर्विसेज किसे बताते हैं। तो आपको सेक्शन 2 में जाना पड़ेगा। यू हैव टू गो टू सेक्शन schedule 2 to determine whether it's a goods or a service. Okay. Then, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, activities or transactions specified in schedule 3 or such activities undertaken by central government or state government in the when they are engaged as public authorities and should be notified by the government shall be treated not neither as supply of goods neither as supply of services. तो 7(1) हो गया, 1A हो गया, अब 7(2). सेक्शन 7 सबसेक्शन 2 क्या बोलता है कि 1 में जो बोल दिया है वो कह दिया है, बट उसका एक्सेप्शन यहाँ पे आ जाइए अगर पूरे कंडीशन 7(1) के फुलफिल होते हैं और वो आइटम या वो कैटेगरी या वो ट्रांजैक्शन जो है अगर शेड्यूल 3 में दिखाया गया है। शेड्यूल 3 में एक लिस्ट आती है, अगर उस लिस्ट में है तब आपको उन ट्रांजैक्शंस पे जीएसटी भरने की जरूरत नहीं। ओके। शेड्यूल 3 के जो आइटम्स है वो आउट ऑफ जीएसटी हो जाएंगे, बिकॉज इट सेज दैट notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, activities or transactions specified in schedule 3 shall be treated neither as a supply of goods nor as a supply of services. There is one good question here from Mr. Unikrishnan saying that club turnover is more than GST registration ceiling, only then taxable. Yes, that will still apply, Unikrishnan. That will apply universally, saying that whatever is the threshold limit, if that applies, then that will apply to everybody. So similarly, in case of a club also, if they are providing any kind of a transaction which is exceeding that ceiling limit, only then it will be taxable. Then any activities undertaken by the central government or state government in which they are engaged as public authorities, that is also out of the scope of GST. So क्या दो चीजें हैं जो out of the scope of GST रहेंगे? दो चीजें, वो चीजें जो शेड्यूल 3 में कही गई है, और सेकेंड वो एक्टिविटीज ऑफ द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और लोकल अथॉरिटी जहां पे वो पब्लिक अथॉरिटीज के रूप में काम करते हैं, लेकिन उनके सर्विसेज नोटिफाई करने होंगे। फिर 7(3) कहता है कि whatever is there in 1A and 2, the government on the recommendation of the GST Council can specify कि ये supply of goods है, ये supply of services है, और ये supply of goods ही रहेगा, services नहीं रहेगा, या फिर ये service ही रहेगा और goods नहीं रहेगा, वैसे वो classification कर सकते हैं। So what are the parameters of supply? We understood that it should be supply of goods or services. It should be for a consideration. That is what 7 subsection 1 clause A says, should be supply of goods or services for a consideration in the course of furtherance of business. Then 7(1)(b), 7 subsection 1 clause B said that in case of importation of services, even if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, but there is a consideration, तो आपको GST भरना पड़ेगा। Then 7(1)(c) says that where the consideration is not there, still it will be liable to GST if it is supply of goods or services and if it is in the course or furtherance of business. सिंपल है यहां तक। तो हम सप्लाई का जो बेसिक है वो समझ गए हैं। Government definition whether statutory bodies will include, the definition of government is given in the definition of government, Unikrishnan. It will not include statutory bodies. Okay, the definition doesn't include statutory bodies. They should be a government authority, a government entity. And government would generally mean central government and state government, because government authority and government entity is separate. So if they specifically say government authority and government entity, then it will include, not otherwise. और क्या बोलता है? 7(2) आ जाता है। 7 subsection 2 says that transactions out of the scope of supply, which is transactions which are outside the scope of supply is given in Schedule 3. So Schedule 1 is for such cases जहाँ पे supply of goods or services है, in the course of furtherance of business है और consideration नहीं है, that is Schedule 1. Schedule 2 is a classification schedule कि जहाँ पे आपने supply establish कर दिया है, फिर उसका बंटवारा करना कि goods क्या है, service क्या है, वो Schedule 2 बताएगा. फिर Schedule 3 क्या बताएगा? Transactions which are outside the scope of supply, जो Schedule 3 में रहेगा उसके ऊपर GST नहीं लगने वाला है. ठीक है? Now, before getting into each and every subclause, let us understand the important definitions. Okay, क्या बोलता है goods? क्योंकि हम जब सब जगह GST बोलते हैं, it should be supply of goods or services. So, what is the definition of goods? Goods means every kind of movable property. Okay, goods means every kind of movable property. अगर वो immovable property है, जैसे building हो गया, बिल्डिंग बनने के बाद वो इमूवेबल हो गया है, सो देन इट्स एन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, दैट इज नॉट गुड्स. बट व्हेन इट इज अ मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, इट इज अ गुड्स. वेरी सिंपल. बट इट एक्सक्लूड्स मनी एंड सिक्योरिटीज. जब आप मनी बोलते हो, मनी इज मूवेबल, तो फिर उसको क्यों गुड्स में नहीं रखा गया है? बिकॉज इट्स अ नॉट अ गुड्स पर से, दैट इज हैविंग अ वैल्यू फॉर इट. वो आप खरीदते नहीं हो, आप उससे कुछ खरीदोगे, बट you don't buy money as such. You exchange money. When you give money to somebody, he gives you something in return. Or when you give money to somebody as a loan, he gives you the money back along with some consideration that is called interest. So per se, even though it is movable, it is specifically excluded, which is money and securities. What securities? Securities, what you have read under Securities Control Act, Securities Control Regulation Act, all stocks, shares, debentures, all of this, what is defined there, will apply here also. So money and securities are specifically excluded from the definition of goods. But क्या include करता है? Goods के definition में actionable claim included है. What is actionable claim? आपको कुछ idea है actionable claim के बारे में? What do you think? What is an actionable claim? Sale of old factory building not included in supply of goods. Correct. Sale of old factory building as such does not, it will not be covered under supply of goods. It will be considered as a transaction in immovable property. फॉरेन एक्सचेंज इंक्लूड हो गया गुड्स में. फॉरेन एक्सचेंज, जब आप मनी बोलते हो, तब इट कैन बी एनी मनी, ओके, ऑफ इंडियन करेंसी और फॉरेन करेंसी. इट डजंट रेस्ट्रिक्ट टू इंडियन करेंसी इटसेल्फ. तो आप फॉरेन एक्सचेंज में हो गया, फॉरेन करेंसी को आप बाई करते हो इंडियन रुपीज देके, तो दैट इज नॉट अ सप्लाई. लेकिन एक चीज है कि फॉरेन एक्सचेंज, अब फॉरेन करेंसी लेने के लिए जो एजेंट होगा या बैंकर होगा, कुछ कमीशन चार्ज करेगा. That commission is chargeable, but the per se, the principal value of giving 80 rupees and getting $1, 80 दिया आपने, $1 लिया, that is not a good. That is also a currency itself. That is also money. Money is either money in INR or money in any other manner. Bill of exchange. Bill of exchange also is in such a nature because it's not a goods. So similar thing will apply for bills of exchange also. Awesome. So let's proceed. We understood what is included in goods, what is excluded, and specific inclusion again in goods is goods includes actionable claim, and it includes growing crops, grass, and things attached to or farming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. मतलब आपने contract of supply में you have defined that any growing crops, grass, and things will be severed, then that is also goods. Okay, so anything which is grown like a growing crops, and you have entered into a transaction to, or you have entered into into agreement saying that I will cut this crops, subject to that I will sell my land. So there are two things involved. One is land is also involved and growing crops is also involved. So to the extent of growing crops or anything attached to that land will be treated as goods, even though it is immovable property when you see it. But when you have agreed, then it will be considered as goods. Secondly, in case of services, so we understood definition of goods. Now the definition of services. Very simple definition. Services means anything other than goods. So any kind of transactions, what we do, right? Services again, usko it is intangible, right? Services are intangible. When you provide some service, you can't see it. At least in terms of goods, you know that something is getting goods. And I'm giving you this book. I'm selling you to this book. So there is a physical property involved. So there is a movable property in case of goods. But in services, over the phone, you can provide some services. Doctor can just orally prescribe you the medicines, right? All of this services can be tangible and more it will be intangible. That's the reason services has been defined as anything other than goods. And there also it excludes money and securities. So money and securities is excluded in goods and it is excluded in services also. But what does it include? It includes activities relating to use of money. Okay, money is excluded, but activities relating to use of money is included. Then conversion of money by cash or by any other mode. Somebody was asking conversion of Indian currency to foreign currency. That conversion charges will be included in the definition of service. Buildings, Abdan, we have discussed buildings. Buildings after completion of that building structure, it is an immovable property. But when you construct a building, it is not an immovable property because it has not yet become an immovable property. That's why under Schedule 2, you'll see that construction of a building is a service. Okay. Meaning of actionable claim. Very good. Actionable claim. The words define it. You have a claim against something for which you can take a action. Is a actionable claim. Good. Various examples of actionable claim will be there. One example is sundry debtors. You have sold something on which you have sold it on credit. You have a right to claim that money back for the goods what you have sold. Okay, you have a actionable claim against your debtor. You can claim the money from your debtor. If he doesn't give you, you can take some action, legal action also, saying that I had supplied goods to him and he's not paying money to me, right? So that is a actionable claim. A claim with action which you can do is an actionable claim. Suppose you have given me a something for gift and you were expecting something from me and I have not given it. You cannot claim anything from me because there was no transactions that I will pay you something or there was no promise that I will pay you something. So that is not an actionable claim. An actionable claim arises when you give something with the obligation on the other person to do something for you. That is an actionable claim. Another example of actionable claim is, which is also included under Schedule 3, is lottery, betting and gambling. When you buy a lottery ticket, okay, you're all aware of lottery ticket. How does it work? How lottery ticket works is, earlier when we were kids, we were seeing, because that was all open, it was not banned in most of the states. That time it was open in all the states, wherein you used to get a lottery ticket saying that this is a lottery ticket, this price is 50 rupees. So you give 50 rupees and get the ticket. On that ticket, you will have a unique number. One number cannot be repeated. So lottery company will issue these lottery tickets to hundreds and thousands and crores of people. People will buy it. Now, when there is a date mentioned in that lottery ticket, that day what they will do, they will go by random, uh, like how you have token system, a random token numbering will be there and a number will be picked up. and that number will be announced in a newspaper or through various modes. If you have that ticket, then you can go and claim the price. So what 50 rupees you paid, you will get 5 lakh rupees if your number strikes. That is how the lottery ticket used to work. Even now it works, but we have seen this working across the country. Now it is only restricted to some states where they are permitting it, other states they have banned it. So when you get this lottery ticket and you have striked it, okay, then you have a right to claim the price from the lottery company, right? And you can claim it and you can take action against it. So this sale of lottery ticket is a actionable claim. So that is another example of a actionable claim. So actionable claim is included under the definition of goods. Endorsement of bill of exchange is an example of actionable claim or good supply. No, it is not an actionable claim because bill of exchange, you can say partially it is, but when you give a bill of exchange, it is for a supply of goods, so may not be an exact actionable claim. Okay, we understood the definition of goods and services. Now let us see what does those 8 terms mean under 7(1)(a) when it says sale, transfer, barter, exchange, and all those things. What is the meaning of those? So sale means transfer of ownership and title of the property from one person to another person. So when there is a transfer of ownership, I give something to you. Boss, you keep this with you. I am going out of station. Once I come back, you have to return this to me. Okay. Is this a sale transaction? Because when I am not there, you are enjoying that goods. Okay, say like a television. I've gone out of station. I said, you keep the television for 1 month. After 1 month, I will take it. Anything damage happens, of course, I've given it to you, so you are responsible. So in that case, is this a transaction of sale or no? Not a supply, not a sale. Why not? Or if yes, why yes? Correct, Pooja. Your answer is right. Others, Preeti and Sumit, why do you say there is no sale in that transaction? Consideration is fine. Say for giving the TV, you take the consideration also. So is that still sale then? You take some deposit, and once you come back, you have to return the deposit amount. So it will still not be a sale, right? I'm just trying to introspect further so that you should be confident in your answer. Even if I give some money consideration, still it is not a sale because a sale means transfer of the ownership, complete ownership, saying that if I give it to you, then you should have a right to say no to me also. You can say yes or you can say no also, wherein the ownership is completely transferred. Okay. In this case, I'm not transferring the ownership. You are holding that television as a, the concept of bailar and bailey. We have learned this under an Indian Contract Act. In our BComs also, we have learned, even in the first year of your CA foundation, you have learned there is a transaction of a bailor and bailee. So the person is holding this goods as a bailee on my behalf and not as a owner. For the world outside, he as a owner because he's holding it. Possession is different. Ownership and title is different. So the person is not having a title, he's having a possession. Just possession is not sufficient. I have to transfer the ownership and title to the property, then it is a sale. Then transfer. Transfer is also covered to convey or remove from one place to another, which means the definition of supply, we understood sale, we understood what is not a sale. Now, sale ke alawa also there are other terms. What are those other terms? One is transfer. So when I transfer the goods, example is transfer from warehouse to showroom. One entity itself has a main godown and it has a showroom. So when there is a transfer from godown to showroom, okay, it is not a sale because you are the owner. This is your branch wherein your warehouse are there, and this is another branch where you have a showroom. So then how can there be a GST applicable on this? It will be applicable if they are in different states, or if there is within the state, but they have taken two separate registrations. So these are all examples of transfer. So stock transfer between one branch to another, transfer from warehouse to go down, warehouse to showroom. These are all example of transfers. Okay. Sale understood, transfer understood. What is barter? Ancient times, go back to your olden times. I give you something, you give me something else. The value of what I am giving is you are finding valuable. You are finding something, so you are giving me something which I am feeling it valuable. There is no exact value in terms of monetary consideration. What you are happy, what I am happy, we are exchanging. That is a barter transaction. Exchange. Exchange is an act of giving or taking one thing for another. It is a mixture of, say, transfer and barter, but to not leave any gap, they have included exchange also under the definition of supply. What is an exchange? Exchange is an act of exchanging. You get your new vehicle, okay, which is you're selling your old vehicle and getting your new vehicle plus 2,000 rupees you're paying. If you are just giving old vehicle and getting a new vehicle, that will become under barter. But if there is some additional consideration which is involved apart from the barter transaction, that is the example of exchange. Then license. Permission. What is a license? A license is a permission granted by competent authority to engage in a business or occupation or in any activity which is otherwise lawful, which is otherwise unlawful. So any kind of a right which has been given to you to do something on behalf of the landowner or on behalf of any authority, that is a license which is otherwise unlawful, but because of this because of this agreement or because of this sanction, this is a right given to you. This is an example of license. Then disposal. When I sell, I pledge, I give away or anything without a consideration, that's an example of disposal. So why disposal is covered here? Because consideration is involved. It is still covered here because we have something called as a Schedule 1, wherein there it says that any kind of disposal you do without consideration is also liable for GST. That's why disposal is also included here. Then any kind of a rental, which means arrangement to rent something, is an example of rental. Now, rental could be of mobile property or rental could be of equipment. Generally, for equipments, what we give, that is called as a rental. Now, rental for a house is actually in legal terms, it's a lease, which means to make a legal agreement by which money is paid in order to use land, building, vehicle, or a piece of equipment for an agreed period of time. That is a lease transaction. Okay. Lease is where possession is transferred along with the right to use property, but distinguishing it with license. License is similar to lease, except that the possession is not transferred. You have a tally license. Ownership of the tally modification is with the tally company. They're giving you the license to use it. Okay, that is example of license where the possession is not given to you. In case of a lease, the possession is also given to you. Very technical terms. That is an example of lease and license. Pledging is supply. Unni Krishnan, pledging is not supply. So if you go to Mandapuram Gold, you give your gold there, get the money. Will they charge GST? No, they will not GST because pledging is only a transaction in money. Now he has to give you money. He is not sure that you will return back to him. So he will give you this. You will, Pandapuram will collect jewelry from the person who wants the loan. So it's all a transaction in money. Various examples of supply. Mr. A buys a table for 10,000 rupees for his personal use and sells it off after 10 months of use to a dealer. This is not considered as a supply because it is not done by Mr. A for furtherance of business. Mr. A has purchased for his personal use. Now, when he purchased for his personal use, he is not dealing in this regularly. If he deals regularly, then it will be treated as a supply if he's buying and selling on a regular basis. But if he's bought it for his personal use and he sold it, then it is not a supply. Second example, Mrs. B. Mrs. B provides free coaching to neighboring students as a hobby. This is not considered as a supply. Even though she's doing here, regularity, we said not that. Here it is regular. But still, it is not a supply. Why? Because there is no consideration. She does free coaching. So even if she does regularly, it is not a supply. So consideration is required. In this case, no consideration, so no supply. Third, when a new mobile is bought in exchange for an old mobile along with a monetary consideration of 2,000. This we have seen that. This is an example of exchange. Where a laptop is supplied for rupees 30,000 along with a barter of printer that is manufactured in the recipient. An example of barter. Katrina Kaif, famous actress, uses the services of a makeup artist from USA. In that case, is GST liable in India? Yes, there is something called as a reverse charge mechanism wherein we'll read that in the subsequent chapter, but understand the concept of reverse charge when the supplier is supplying something and he is not paying the GST, but the recipient. Supplier is not paying the GST, recipient is paying the GST. That is the example of import of service is covered under that. When you're importing any services, the supplier is outside India. He is not concerned with GST. You are a person. You have to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. Unikrishnan, how is disposal includes pledge? How do you say, sir, that disposal includes pledge? No. Disposal is just disposing of. You are not using it anymore. That is separate. Pledges, we are giving it and taking it back on return of money. That is a pledge. So disposal and pledge is not the same. Now come to the aspect of consideration. Consideration, very clear. Consideration means payment, can be non-monetary also, wherein I agree that I will pay you something else in kind. That is also consideration. Consideration need not be consideration in money. It can be in non-monetary terms also. Subsidy given by central government and state government is not considered as a supply. It's a subsidy. So what is the subsidy? Saying that I am supplying 500 bags to a school. Now the school cannot pay me something. The government says that, okay, manufacturer, you supply the school to the bag because any day education is required. So you supply this bags to the school. How much is the price you want to charge? 500 rupees. They will negotiate saying, no, you reduce it to, you're buying in bulk, reduce it to 50 rupees. Okay, 450 rupees. Now, school still is not in a condition to pay 450 rupees per student for the bag. The government says, don't worry, you collect from the school 200 rupees, 250 rupees we will give you. Okay, so he will supply. The supplier is not making any loss. He is supplying at 450. 200 rupees is collecting from the school, and another 250 rupees is collecting from the central government or state government. Ultimately selling for 450. But this subsidy received from the central government or state government is not considered as a consideration because that is excluded. On that, there should not be any GST because it's nature of subsidy. That's why no GST on that. But specifically, you have to understand that this subsidy should be from central government or state government. Okay. So here comes a question related to this. A subsidy is given same like for sale of bags by Melinda Gates Foundation. You know Bill Gates, correct? Bill Gates runs a foundation called as Melinda Gates. Now this Melinda Gates Foundation said that 250 rupees we will give for the bags. Will this be considered as a consideration on that consideration from Melinda Gates? Will you pay GST or no? You will pay GST. Okay. Correct, Unikrishna. In disposal pledge was included, but I think that's a mistake. Disposal doesn't mean pledge. That is wrong. Come on, class. GST is payable, okay, on the amount received as a subsidy from Melinda Gates. Correct. Very nice. Everybody is answering correctly. Yes, it will be treated as a supply as it was from. So GST as it was not from central government or state government. Correct. So only when you receive subsidy from the central government or state government, only then it is not included. Otherwise, it will be included in the consideration and GST will be payable on that. So now I am buying something. Okay. I'm buying something. I have to pay money. Now the supplier who's supplying to me is saying that no, you have to give me a deposit because I don't trust you. After manufacturing, you will pay me or no, so you give me a deposit. Will this deposit be treated as a consideration? On the deposit, should we pay GST? No, because it's a deposit which is returnable, right? Since the deposit is returnable, on that no GST will apply. But this deposit, why did you take the deposit? So that you should not default now, neither in the future. So I'm regularly dealing with you. 1 year I've did a lot of transactions. Second year when it started, you didn't pay me. So what I've done is I have apportioned this deposit against your supply. So when I do this allocation or kind of pass a entry in the book saying that this deposit is adjusted for the sale transaction, then it will be affected and it will be liable to GST. Till then, deposit is not liable to GST. Okay. मलप्पा आरसीएम क्या है मैंने बता दिया है. जब हम सप्लाई करते हैं कुछ चीज तो सप्लायर जीएसटी पे करता है. करेक्ट. दैट इज द रेगुलर चार्ज. लेकिन ऐसे कुछ ट्रांजैक्शंस होते हैं जहां पे सप्लायर पे नहीं करेगा और रिसीवर पे करेगा, उसे कहते हैं रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म। जहां पे रिसिपिएंट पे करेगा उसे कहते हैं रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म। Correct. So on initial stage of GST, advance was taxable in case of goods. In case of advance payment for goods, GST was taxable. From October 2017 itself, that is gone away with. So from for now, for all your transactions presently, any advance you pay for supply of goods, GST is not payable on the advance for goods. But for services, you're providing services after 3 months, but you're getting advance now itself. On that advance for services, you have to pay GST when you receive the money, but for goods, it is separate. Goods is on actual provision, but for services, when you receive the money or provision of service, whichever is earlier. Okay, so in case of any consideration which is received in advance for services, it is taxable. For goods, it is not taxable. Then consideration has to be quid pro quo. That is something in return or something for something. There should be exchange. That is a consideration. Now, there are some special circulars which specify whether it is a consideration or no. Donations, right? Donations, do you think it is liable to GST? No, it is not liable to GST because it is not a quid pro quo consideration. One of the things is quid pro quo, that you should get something and you should pay something. Donation is one way, and you are paying something to a NGO or a charity, and you're not getting something from there. Correct? So generally they are one-sided. The receiving entity does not give back anything. However, if there exists a quid pro quo saying that I will give you donation provided you market my donation saying donated by so and so, that becomes my publicity and marketing, no? So then if you put my name in big banners, big boards, then I will give you a donation. So there is a quid pro quo. It means the person, the charity which is receiving a donation is not receiving donation freely. There is a strings or there are some conditions attached. In that case, it becomes liable to GST. So very careful. हम ऐसा नहीं कह सकते कि सभी डोनेशंस जो है उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। ठीक है, अगर कुछ डोनेशन है जिसके लिए जो एनजीओ है या कोई ट्रस्ट है, कुछ गलती है उसके रिलेशन में, तब उसको जीएसटी पे करना पड़ सकता है। Even today advance for service taxable? Yes, Suni question. Even today advance service is taxable. Sponsorship of Indian players are taxable? Yes, sponsorship services are taxable, that too under reverse charge. ठीक है, very interesting. Don't you think now GST is moving to an interesting phase that we understood supply? Now we are seeing so many permutations and combinations. कुछ चीजें हमने सोचा भी नहीं था कि ये GST लग जाएगा. Correct? So these additional things are very, very critical in your day-to-day activities. Also, you can get some questions from your friends. Be well versed ki हाँ, what are the transactions on which I will pay GST and what are those transactions on which I will not pay GST. However, now the circular said that अगर आप बड़ा बड़ा नाम डालने के लिए लेते हो कि डोनर का नाम बड़ा बड़ा आएगा, देन इट इज तो ऑब्लिगेशन, फिर जीएसटी लगेगा। लेकिन अगर आप नॉर्मली एक बस देते हो, ओके, यू गिव अ बस टू अ एनजीओ जस्ट मेंशंस एज अ मैटर ऑफ कर्टेसी सेइंग दैट ओके डोनेटेड बाय सो एंड सो पर्सन, उसमें कुछ मार्केटिंग है ही नहीं, इट्स अ स्मॉल acknowledgement, then GST will not apply. Okay. Accommodations bill, explain that more in detail, Navya. What is that you're trying to ask? Bills of exchange used as accommodation billed. Hmm. Bills of exchange used as accommodation bill. Not clear with your question still. Okay. Moving forward to the next clarification. One is donation. Second is on artworks. So we have some galleries and exhibitions. Now these galleries and exhibitions, artworks are displayed by of the artist. Now once they display, will there be any consideration for me to pay GST? No. For the artist, nothing is received for just by exhibiting it. So when he is just exhibiting it, nothing is received. So there is no display. Only when somebody buys them, then there is an actual supply. So just display is a window shopping, right? He is also displaying there so that somebody can see it, like it, and buy it. So the artist is not getting any consideration. So on the artworks display, there is no supply. Only when somebody buys, there will be a supply. Okay. डोनेशंस पे जीएसटी क्यों लगता है? डोनेशंस पे जीएसटी लगेगा तब जब आप उसको जो जो एनजीओ है वो डोनेशन डोनेशन के तौर पे नहीं कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए करता है, तब जीएसटी लगेगा। वरना क्या हो जाएगा कि हर कोई डोनेशन कर रहा है, रिसीव कर रहा है, लेकिन कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रहा है कि बोल रहा है कि मैं एनजीओ हूँ, लेकिन डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट जो डोनेशन दे रहा है उसको मिल रहा है, तो फिर जीएसटी लगना चाहिए ना, क्योंकि उसको कुछ तो बेनिफिट मिल रहा है, तो इसीलिए उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा। अब एक चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कुछ इक्विपमेंट्स प्रोवाइड कर रहा है और डोनेशन ले रहा है, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी बच जाएगा। एक और बंदा है जो चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है और वो सप्लाई कर रहा है, वो जीएसटी चार्ज कर रहा है। तो ये जो कंपनी है, ये अगर प्योरली डोनेशन कर रही है तो उसको कुछ एक्सचेंज में चाहिए नहीं होगा, लेकिन अगर कुछ एक्सचेंज में ले रही है तो इट मीन्स ये सप्लाई हो जाएगा कि मेरे सभी इंग्रेडिएंट्स ऑफ सप्लाई मौजूद है इसमें, मैं तो बिजनेस में हूँ ही। बिजनेस में ये मतलब नहीं कि भी बिजनेस है, अगर मैं प्रॉफिट नहीं करता हूँ तभी मैं बिजनेस में हूँ, अगर लॉस करता हूँ तभी मैं बिजनेस में हूँ। एनजीओ भी अगर रेगुलरली ये सप्लाई करती है इक्विपमेंट्स तो वो भी बिजनेस में ही है, तो बिजनेस में है, कंसिडरेशन आ रहा है, तो फिर जीएसटी तो लगना चाहिए। सो क्योंकि ताकि ये सभी जीएसटी के इंग्रेडिएंट्स में फुलफिल करता है, तो इसलिए डोनेशंस पर भी जीएसटी लग सकता है, तो केस टू केस स्पेसिफिक देखना पड़ेगा। Dead rent connected on land for lease, yes, it is still liable to GST. We have said no lease license, it is liable to GST. Residential rent collected from ex-employee. मतलब क्या हुआ? Are you giving a residential accommodation? Who is giving a residential accommodation? Is the residential accommodation provided by a landlord? Then for residential use, it is not liable to GST. But if it is giving to a company, then company is not using it for residential purposes, it will be liable to GST. But pure जब हम घर खरीदते हैं, घर पे रहते हैं, on that there is no GST because on residential accommodation there is no GST. Donation received and name is displayed in name board of charitable trust, then GST is chargeable or not. So name board of the charitable trust, directly in the name board itself. Okay. Then is it a matter of marketing or is it charitable trust is doing it voluntarily on its own behalf? If it is not a thing which is compulsory, then it is not liable to GST. If it is compulsory that my name has to come there, it all depends on the terms. If the terms of the says of the donation saying that they will have generally companies when they give donation, they enter into a lot of terms. So in the terms, if they mention that our name should be appearing in the name board, then it means it is a pure marketing, it will be liable to GST. Free accommodation services given to auditor. Why free accommodation will be given to auditor? Generally, when he comes for doing audit, some accommodation they will take some. The company who is giving that accommodation, they will charge some GST, so it will be liable. But for an auditor, now when I go for audit for my client, say from Bangalore, I go to Haryana. While staying there, I am paying to the Haryana hotel fellow, right? So hotel person will collect GST from me. I will pay GST. I will include it in my bill and then charge the client. So it is in the nature of reimbursement. This reimbursement also will be included in my bill, and on that GST will be payable. Now, if I don't pay, client pays the hotel accommodation directly. The hotel is anyways charging the GST to the client. So there also it is liable, or in this route it will be liable. So any kind of expense reimbursement on that also GST is payable. Sure, Sriram. I've only referring few cases in Hindi so that people from who are well versed with Hindi can understand. But don't worry, I'm not missing out anything. Wherever I am using Hindi, I'm converting immediately that in English. Company guest house used by the auditor free of cost, still no GST because there's no consideration, right? And why am I using that guest house? For providing that services, right? When if I would not have taken from the company's guest house, I would have used outsiders guest house. But in this case, companies use giving me that guest house. So there is no artificial valuation as such. Like how we have annual value and in the income tax, in GST, we don't have anything like that. Like if you are not using it or there's no consideration, something has to be attached a value for that. No, that is not required. Sangeetwani, what is your question? How will you come to know that the specified according to the terms? So you will have to see the terms of the donation. If there is any kind of terms by the nature of the charitable organizations, these are the factors which will help you decide all of this to decide whether it is compulsory or not compulsory. Okay, good to go. Let's proceed. Okay, some more questions. Agriculture products पे GST चार्ज होता है या नहीं? एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स जब हम एग्जेम्पशंस आएंगे तब बात करेंगे, बट समझ लीजिए कि जो बेसिक एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस है विच इज फिट फॉर प्राइमरी मार्केट, जैसे आपने अनाज लिया है, ठीक है, अनाज के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगता है, लेकिन अनाज को जब आप मिल्स में जाके कन्वर्ट कर देते हो, ठीक है, जैसे क्या होता है, इफ यू बाइंग अ वीट, ठीक है, वीट और राइस, राइस में फर्स्ट पैडी आता है देन राइस आता है, सो पैडी इज डायरेक्टली taken up from the agriculture produce, threshing, drying वगैरह करके, then it is sold at the primary mandi. So up till that, it is not liable to GST. After that, it gets converted into rice. Paddy gets into paddy mills, and then a rice is generated. So on that rice, GST will be applicable because it's not agriculture produce anymore. Up to paddy stage, it was agriculture produce. Then paddy to it gets converted into rice. Then GST will be liable. Other agriculture produce like farm से directly जो fruits, vegetables, all of that, that is not liable to GST. Even today, packaged fruits and vegetables also is not liable to GST. So it all depends on each product to product. But you have to understand that at your inter-level, product level rate of GST is not applicable for you. For services, it is applicable. For inter-level in the syllabus itself, you don't have to decide classification. You have to decide whether GST is applicable on the goods or not. Free sample provided as sales promotion. Good question. There is no consideration. no GST because it's a free sample provided. But when we come to input tax credit chapter, we will learn that input tax credit is given with the assurance that you will make an outward supply. But if any free sample which you have purchased, okay, and you have given as a sales promotion, when you purchase that free sample, you have claimed the ITC. Now, when you are supplying, it is a free sample, so you're not collecting anything. GST is not going. So what you have to do? You have to reverse the ITC on that free sample. Okay, government says that या तो फिर you pay output tax or you reverse your input tax. I will not give you both the benefit that you're claiming input tax credit and not charging any GST. That is not okay with. Okay, so you collect the GST on your purchases and output side you're not paying any GST, so you reverse your input tax credit. So you will reverse the input tax credit in that scenario. Good, wonderful questions. Means you're really thinking hard. That's good. Once you think it, and if you get such question, it'll be so easy for you to answer it because you know the concepts well. Like quota government purchase agriculture goods include rice. So your government pays GST to them? No. So specifically on agriculture produce up to the primary thing is exempted. फिर सेकेंडरी राइस के ऊपर जीएसटी लगना चाहिए, लेकिन क्या हुआ है जीएसटी का अलग से गुड्स के लिए रेट्स है. ठीक है, देयर इज अ स्पेशल रेट्स फॉर जीएसटी. So firstly, it is liable to GST. Second, what you have to see is whether this is what is the rate applicable for this GST. अगर 0% है, like rice, wheat, these are all essential commodities, then they have mentioned that on these products the rate will be zero. Okay, so in that case, rice is part of that 0% rate, so it is not liable to GST. It is liable to GST, but the rate is zero. So there is a difference. What is not liable to GST is not liable to GST at all. मतलब उसके ऊपर GST नहीं है. But if it is liable to GST, it is liable. But the rate notification says the rate is zero, so I'm not paying. So they understood the difference. One is liable to GST, one is not liable to GST. First is not liable is outside the GST. Second is it is liable. Then you have to go and determine the rate for that product. For this product of can be produced, not agriculture produce. On this produce, you will see that it is liable to 0% GST rate, so there will not be any GST charge. Sangeetwani's next question is free samples given in the course of furtherance of business, but no consideration, but not for consideration. As consideration is not there, it is not supply. Correct, it is not a supply, you're right. But input tax credit says that input tax credit on any free samples has to be reversed. That's the reason you will reverse it. Insurance given is liable for GST. Yes, when you make the insurance policies, okay, you pay monthly or annually premiums. On that premiums, on full value, it's not the condition. Some calculations there saying that when 30.5% of the insurance value will be calculated, on that GST will be charged. So on insurance also, premiums what we pay on that GST is payable. Okay, let's go to the next thing. What is the definition of business? Very, very, very wide. It says all trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, or vocation Incidental or ancillary, whether or not there is a volume. Here, sir, those agriculture produce liable to GST with 0%, but e-invoice are applicable for goods. Yes. E-invoice is a different thing. E-way bill is a different thing. 0% is a different thing. Even if it is 0%, still e-way bill will be required and e-invoicing will be required. Okay. Any incidental or ancillary activities, matlab, before starting of your business, anything which you do, after closing of the business, what you do, all of that is also part of the business itself. Whether or not there is volume, frequency, contingency, or regularity. You're doing it regularly, not regularly, one time you're doing, that is also included under the definition of business. So it is so very wide that they have included everything. In supply or acquisition of goods, provision of facilities of to members, जो हम लोग बात कर रहे थे club, that is also defined under definition of business. Admission of persons to any premises. IPL है, सिर्फ admit कर रहे हैं, entry ticket दे रहे हैं. What is the business there? They're only coming here to watch sports. That is also included in the definition of business. Admission of persons to any premises and for which you're collecting entry fees, that is also considered as a business itself. Services supplied by a person, parking fees. जब आप parking fees collect करते हो, you are permitting entry to him and parking. So admission of persons to any premises, that is also liable as business. Services provided by a person as a holder of an office. मतलब I am holding an office. पकड़ रहा हूँ, उसके लिए कुछ charge कर रहा हूँ. I am a director of a company. I am attending a meeting, board meeting. Okay. So board meeting. Who can attend? Only board of directors can attend. I am a director. I am providing a supply by holding the position of a director. That is called as a sitting fees. So on this sitting fees also GST is applicable. And that is also a business activity. Services by a race club is also business. Then activities undertaken by central government, state government, or any local authority. So activities undertaken by government are not excluded from the definition of business. They are included in the definition of, but GST will not be applicable on that for a second reason that it is there under the exemption notification. Cool, clear till here? Okay, Krishnan, water charges and electricity charges collected on actual use by the company from a registered person not doing business occupying company house property. Little litigative, Krishnan, whether GST will be applicable on that or no. We'll have to see because the main activity is renting of immovable property on which you are providing a residential accommodation, so no GST. Then you can call that water charges and electricity charges is part of that. So it's a composite supply, so no GST. Okay. But if it is a company occupied house property, then it is liable to GST. So then water charges and electricity charges, you can say that you're acting as something called as a pure agent, that you are paying it as a pure agent, so not liable to GST. When old machinery is sold, GST is charged. Yes, when old machinery is sold, even then GST is charged because supply, under the definition of supply, it includes sale. The sale of anything, whether capital goods or non-capital goods, still it is liable to GST. Forfeiture of security deposit, yes, because you are apportioning the deposit for supply of goods, right? Once you apportion the deposit for supply of goods, it is liable to GST. A company provides quarters to ex-employee for residential purpose, which is not taxable. It's exempted. Then ITC is to be reversed to the extent as per GST rule. Correct. So if you are providing something for which you're not collecting any consideration, then you have to reverse the ITC. Purchase goods with GST by a manufacturer company and sales will export to other country. What will you do with that input GST? Good question. Very good question. We will cover that under zero rated, but understand here there is something called as a zero rated supply, which is different from an exempt supply. In exempt also you don't pay GST. In zero rated, as the name suggests, you will not pay GST because it's a zero rated. So when difference between exempt and zero rated is on exempt supplies, you don't pay GST and you cannot claim input tax credit. But in case of export of goods or export of services, when you're doing some activity of export transaction, input can be claimed. That is a special benefit given to export zero rated supply. Not only export, zero rated supply. Apart from export, one more category is included under the definition of zero rated supply. So I would say that zero rated supply gives a special privilege. When you're doing a zero rated supply, you can supply those zero rated transactions and your input will still be available to you. Okay. We understood business, some clarifications. Ramesh sold a car which he was using for his personal use. Still not a supply since it is not in the course of business. Mahima sold a old gold ornaments to Tanish Jewels. Still not a supply since it is not in the course of business. Shah Rukh Khan paints some paintings and sells them. However, consideration is donated to charity. Here, you cannot say that it is donated to charity, so no supply. He is getting a consideration. So sale of painting qualifies as a supply since, but if he gives to a donation subsequently, that's a separate activity. So two activities cannot be merged together. When he sells some painting, that painting qualifies as a supply. No, but Shah Rukh Khan is an actor. No, he's not into personal business. We saw in the definition of business, anything done one time is also liable to GST, is covered under business. So if I do a painting and sell it, it is not that famous and my painting will be so very bad. I'm not a painter. But Shah Rukh Khan, even if he paints something which you don't understand, but शाहरुख खान का पेंटिंग मिला then uska auction lagega, it'll go for a high value, correct? So it has a relevance in terms of who does a business. Okay, so wahan pe business definition aa jayega, then it will qualify as a supply. Recovery of food expenses from employees. You have a canteen, कैंटीन के ऊपर आप खर्चा कर रहे हो, नाउ एम्प्लॉयज के बोल रहे हो आपको खाना तो रोज यहीं से खाना है, आई विल कलेक्ट 50 rupees from you. That collection is also a supply. Okay, even though you're collected from an employee subsidized rate, that is also a supply. Online gaming such as Dreams 11 service is taxable. Yes, very much. I've written a book also. I'll show you that there is a big revenue stream over there for the government. They have amended now, not there for a syllabus, but they have amended and they've said that any kind of online gaming is liable to GST. Is that GST refund claim optional? Yes, GST refund is optional. It's not a compulsory thing that you have to apply. If you don't apply, government is happy. So GST refund is optional. Okay, we'll take a break over here for 10 minutes and we'll get back at 7:30. In the meantime, if you have any question, post it. We will discuss all of that once we come back. So, Preeti Verma, very relevant question you have asked is before coming to the class, should we watch the recorded lecture? Yes, you should watch the recorded lectures. That's the reason it has been displayed there. Because the intention of these classes is not to teach you in detail, which I'm going because there is lack of questions. But if you are watching the recorded classes, then you are asking questions. This session is specifically for answering your queries. So all the students are actually expected to watch the recordings beforehand and then come to the class. Mr. A purchases goods from Mr. B. Okay, Sriram has a question. Mr. A purchases goods from Mr. B on Pune. In Pune on May month, it's interstate. Mr. B filed GSTR 1 in May, but Mr. A goods received on June. Mr. A will claim on June or May, right? So here, Mr. A, what if I understood your question correctly, Sriram? Mr. A purchases goods from Mr. B. Now, Mr. B has sold them in the month of May. He has made a supply in May, and he is reported in his GSTR 1. Now, Mr. A has received it in June because of transition or whatever reasons. Now, when will he claim? So we will discuss it in ITC, that ITC can be claimed when you receive the goods. So when he's received the goods, he's received in June, so he can claim only in June. So GSTR 1 is one criteria, but actual receipt of goods is also important. Loan or borrowing is chargeable to GST or no? Loan and borrowing are not liable to GST because it's a transaction in money, and transactions in money are not liable to GST. Whether letter of credit is actionable claim and chargeable to GST. Letter of credit. So letter of credit comes in a transaction of import and export, right? So when you give a letter of credit and then the goods are released, correct? That's how I understood as a letter of credit. It's a financial contract between a bank and a bank's customer and a beneficiary, generally issued on a importer's bank. Okay, when you import, the importer's bank gives you a letter of credit. So these are all financial instruments. These are not like how you say that these are all not actionable claims. These are not actionable claims. Loans and borrowings are not chargeable, but the service charge will be liable. Yes, you're right. Because the loans and things are not liable, but the service charges is liable. So only transaction in money is exempted, like how we said that Forex, like in Forex, there is not liable to GST for the value, but the charges on the Forex is liable. Similarly, in the case of loans and borrowings, it is not liable, but the service charges are all liable to GST. Okay, now let's proceed further in terms of Schedule 1. We said what are all covered. This we have covered in the last time, but let's just discuss in detail. Permanent transfer or disposal of assets is first activity, which is Schedule 1 activity, activities without consideration that it is in the course of furtherance of business, but there is no consideration still liable to GST. One is permanent transfer or disposal of assets, wherein there is a disposal of assets should happen. There should be transfer, should be permanent, and ITC should have been availed. So if you are availed the ITC, only then you will pay GST when you supply or when you dispose of without any consideration. If you have not claimed any ITC, then it is not liable to Schedule 1. Schedule 1, the intention is there should not be any loss of GST. When you have claimed the credit, now when you have claimed the credit, when I've claimed the credit, now I'm not selling it. So then the government gave you that credit. They gave you with the expectation that you will pay the GST on output. Now you are not paying output. So that's why they're saying that it is under Schedule 1, that it is no consideration. Then you will have to pay GST on that because you have claimed the credit. The chain, what I was saying is chain has to continue. That ITC is there and there is the output. Now you have claimed the ITC, and if you're not paying the output, then either reverse the ITC or pay the output. So in case of permanent transfer or disposal of assets, what is happening? You have claimed the ITC. Now, when you're disposing it off, there is an outward supply, but GST you're not paying. That's why it's under Schedule 1 saying that you have to pay GST even if there is no consideration. Got the logic? Then supply between related persons or distinct persons. Like we have seen that any kind of a transaction between related persons or a distinct person. Now, very good thing will come is what is the meaning of distinct person? Distinct person means a person who is registered under GST and having another branch. Okay. If I am registered under GST, if I have 5 branches in one state, I've registered 2 branches under one GST saying this is one business and other 3 branches under and another 3 branches in a different GST number. So in that case, these 2 entities will be treated as distinct person, even though it is by the same person, but the businesses are different. They are treated as distinct person. So any such transaction between this distinct person is a transfer. We have understood the definition of transfer. So any transaction between these 2 people will be liable to GST because when they do any transfer, the government will not have control otherwise. That's the reason they've said that any transfer between distinct person will be under Schedule 1. Even if there is no consideration, you have to determine the value of that transaction and pay GST. Will there be a loss? No, there will not be a loss because the transferor will charge GST and the receiver will still get the credit of this. Okay. And another example of a distinct person is you are registered in one state and you have a branch in another state. Now, whether you have registered that branch or not, it is in a different state. They are also treated as a distinct person. So any transaction between a related person or a distinct person will always be influenced. Okay, so there will be an influence of some price. That's the reason they've said that any transaction between related person or distinct person will be under Schedule 1 and it is an activity without consideration still liable to GST. Got it? Third is a transaction of principal and agent. When you supply anything between a principal and agent, still the price will be influenced. That's why if there is no consideration, still liable to GST. Fourth is importation of services. Importation of services we have already covered under 7(1)(b). Now again over here it is covered when specifically when you are doing importation of services from related persons or establishments located outside India. So there it was anybody, but here if you're doing any importation from related persons or establishments located outside India, still it will be without consideration liable to GST. So then important aspect on importation we'll deal, because there are various things which are covered under importation, right? So which is the thing which is relevant for us? We will understand that in a different slide, but understand that importation of coming under 7(1)(c), that when you import for without business, but there is a consideration, there is a supply, then without consideration also it will be a supply when you are purchasing from a related person. There are some questions here. Reimbursement of food expenses, travel expenses to employees by company is liable to GST? No, it is not liable to GST because it is covered under Schedule 3. Any services provided by a employer to employer in the course of his employment is outside the GST through Schedule 3. So reimbursement also are in the nature of employment services itself, so not liable to GST. Now, very good question, Unikrishnan, is if the assets are purchased prior to GST, so you have not claimed the credit. If you have not claimed the credit, then on such disposal, if it is with consideration, then fine. If it is without consideration, no GST is paid. Clear on this? Next, we will discuss on supply between related or distinct persons. This we have discussed. Schedule 3 we have discussed. Principal to agent is fine. It's a very clarification. Importation of services. This was the important thing which I said we will cover is. Schedule 1 says import of services without consideration by a person from a related person or from his establishment located outside India in the course or furtherance of business. Right? However, in section 7(1)(b), we have seen that import of services, whether or not in the course of furtherance of business, is covered under supply, but there has to be a consideration in such case. So importation, if you see, there are various permutations and combinations. We'll go one by one. First, there is a importation of service and consideration is present. Okay. If I import something and consideration, and in the course of furtherance of business, in the first example, consideration is there and it is in the course of furtherance of business, taxable. Second scenario, importation is there, consideration also is there, but it is not in the course of furtherance of business. Is it taxable? Section 7(1)(b) says yes, it is also taxable. Okay, importation of services where consideration is present, but not in the course of furtherance of business, still it is taxable. Third is importation of services, consideration is not present, but it is in the course of furtherance of business. Will it be taxable? That is when Schedule 1 comes saying that there's no consideration, still it will be taxable when if it is from a related or his establishment located outside India. Only in such scenario. So if you're importing something, it is in the course of furtherance of business, but you're not giving any consideration, still it will be taxable only when you are importing something from a related person or a establishment located outside India. Okay, if you are only doing any importation from a related person or you are having an establishment outside India, then it will be liable, not in other scenarios. Suppose I'm buying from a third party, there is no consideration, not liable to GST because it is not a related person. Only if I'm purchasing something from a related person, then it will be liable to GST. So this is very important. It will not apply in all scenarios, only if it is from a related person or his establishment located outside India. Just have a look at this 1 minute. Sorry, there was a technical issue. Excise duty availed. Huh. Only Krishnan, if the assets were purchased prior to GST, input tax credit you have not claimed. So now when you're selling it, it is not claimed. So if there is no consideration now, then there is no GST. But you're saying what if excise duty was availed? Yes, when excise duty was availed, they allowed it, right? It was not required that you should reverse it, the excise duty also. So whatever excise duty are availed, you will get it. You don't have to reverse the excise duty because now excise duty is not applicable to you. Good observation. Imported from related person, so it will charge in RCM. You're right. Import from related person, it will be under RCM. First, it is taxable, but it will be taxable under RCM. You're right. This will be under RCM. All no, because anyways, in all the cases, RCM only will apply. Right? In all the cases, RCM only will apply. Now, importation of services where consideration is not present and it is also not in the course of furtherance of business. So it will completely be not taxable. Okay. So understand this chart very importantly because it's not there in your study material also. Based on the various permutations I've arrived at it. Importation of services, consideration is present. It is in the course of furtherance of business, taxable. Consideration present, not in the course of business, also taxable because of 7(1)(b). Consideration not present, but in the course of furtherance of business, it will be taxable when it is from a related person itself. And no consideration present, not in the course of other business, not taxable. Okay. Any doubt on this? तो इसको समझ लिया तो आपको इंपोर्टेशन इजीली समझ में आएगा क्योंकि दो जगह पे मेंशन हुआ है सो देयर इज इट इज बाउंड टू सम कंफ्यूजन सो बी केयरफुल इंपोर्टेशन आप फ्रॉम अनरिलेटेड भी करते हो ठीक है प्रीति इफ यू आर डूइंग एनी इंपोर्टेशन फ्रॉम अनरिलेटेड पर्सन आल्सो लाइक इन द सेकंड सिनेरियो स्टिल इट विल बी टैक्सेबल अंडर रिवर्स चार्ज इटसेल्फ लेकिन अगर मैं रजिस्टर्ड नहीं हूं तो फिर OIDAR विल बी ऑन द सप्लायर बट ऑन अदर सर्विसेज इट विल बी ऑन मी ठीक है an asset is sending for repair to foreign country on returnable basis. Okay. You have an asset which have imported, it had some defects. So you are sending on repair country on returnable basis. After repairs, how GST will impact consultancy charges and the repair charges parcel place. So firstly, any movement of such goods outside India has to go through customs. ठीक है वरना फिर क्या होगा customs में double duty लग जाएगा. So you have to be careful, Unikrishnan, on the customs portion firstly. Customs will not allow you to return that goods on free of cost basis. So they may levy double customs duty. Say customs may you get a exemption and you send for repair and get it, it's free. Then GST will be on the, because when you import itself, customs duty is levied and then GST is charged. But in this scenario, when you're importing and customs duty is not charged, then GST also will not be charged. So the person who is doing the repair, if he's charging the repair charges on that, it's a service, right? Repair service. On that, you have to pay under reverse charge. Okay. Second is supplies without consideration, schedule 1, even where even if no consideration would be considered as supply. This we have understood. आपके जो samples है, sales promotion, this all we have covered. Schedule through is a classification. Schedule 2 says that what is supply of goods, what is supply of services, and this other thing is fine. Non-supplies under GST is covered under Schedule 3 or through notification and clarification. This we have discussed. Employer to employee to employer is under Schedule 3. Court or tribunal. Then functions performed by MP, MLA is under Schedule 3. Funeral, burial services, sale of land, actionable claim other than lottery, betting, and gambling. So actionable claim is a goods. We understood. Abhi actionable claim, is it liable to GST? Not liable to GST because it is there under Schedule 3. It says actionable claims are Schedule 3 other than lottery, betting, and gambling. So lottery, betting, and gambling are liable to GST. Other than that, other actionable claims are not liable to GST. Then what is the notification they've given? They've said any panchayat and municipality functions, then alcoholic liquor license given by the government is also outside the scope of GST. What is the clarification they have issued further is interstate movement of conveyance between distinct persons is out, and interstate movement of rigs, tools, pairs, and goods on wheels is also out of GST. Now we have understood the concept of supply, right? Very clearly. Now let us move to the concept of composite and mixed supply. Okay, what is a composite supply and what is a mixed supply? Composite supply means a supply which is made by a taxable person to a recipient. Okay, composite supply definition पढ़ रहा हूँ मैं, section 7 हो गया. Now we are moving to section 8. What is a composite supply and what's a mixed supply? What is a composite supply? A composite supply means a supply which is made by a taxable person to a recipient, and supply will be made by taxable person to recipient only. And what is the important thing? It comprises of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or both or any combination thereof. It comprises of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or any combination thereof, which are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in ordinary course of business, and one of which is a principal supply. I'll take an example, then make you understand this. Okay, there are no examples. Okay, I will give you the example. A composite supply is a supply wherein there are two or more supplies minimum. Both are bundled together or attached together. I go and buy a air conditioner. Okay. By default, जब भी I buy a new air conditioner or the market where I am, the air conditioner supplier itself will come and do the installation. So I will not ask him also about the installation. He will only tell various orders, I'll do the installation. But there are two supplies. One is selling of AC and doing the installation. So there are two supplies, supplying of the air conditioner, and second is installation. By default, these both go together. When I'm negotiating with him for the price of the air conditioner, I will negotiate for the air conditioner price only. I will not separately negotiate for the installation because by default, there is one price for air conditioner and installation. Okay, so no separate negotiation for that supply of air conditioner with installation. So when the pricing is one, the both of the services go hand in hand. I will tell him I have bought air conditioner from my cousin. Now you come and do an installation. Will you do? He'll tell no, I will not do it. Only if you buy from me, I'll do the installation. So these are not independent. They are two separate supplies. Okay. Both are bundled together. All of this is comprising of two or more taxable supplies of goods or services. They are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction. They are naturally bundled. They are not artificially bundled that I am telling you do it together. They do it as a matter of naturally they do that. It is given together. So it's a naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business, and one of which is a principal supply. Supply of air conditioner I'm going, buying of air conditioner is a principal supply. So one of which is a principal supply. This is the definition of composite supply. We understood this. What is the basis for determining? Because we have two things. One is composite, and a conjunction or a corollary of that is a mixed supply. The opposite of composite is a mixed supply. So we have to understand whether it is a composite supply or a mixed supply. Because if it is a composite supply, the air conditioner is chargeable, say, at 12%, and installation is chargeable at 18%. Now, in case it's a composite supply, where I've decided and confirmed from the definition that it's a composite supply, then what is the rate of the principal supply will apply for the whole of this composite supply. If I split this, if I do an installation of a old AC, then the installation person is providing me a service, he will charge 18%. But when I'm going to this air conditioner for a new air conditioner, he will supply the air conditioner and do the installation. So for that installation, there is no separate price because it's a composite supply. Then on that whole bundle of air conditioner and installation put together, he will charge me 12%. So in case of a composite supply, we have to identify which is the principal supply, and the GST rate on that principal supply will apply for the whole of that product. Okay. Clear with this? Now, how do we determine if services are bundled in the ordinary course of business? What is the perception of the consumer? Like in this case, I had the perception that I will get the installation. Another example is when I buy a mobile, I will get the charger along with it. Correct? So it is a composite supply, mobile with charger. How service providers in that business provide similar bundle of services? When you're doing a air travel, okay, they will do the coordination with the airline company and provide you the services. That's how the industry works. You will not have to go and separately find out from the aircraft. Air travel agent itself will include his charges in such a way that airline company's charges also covered. The nature of various services in a bundle of services, like if you're staying in a hotel, food will be complimentary, breakfast will be complimentary. So how these services are bundled together, that is also relevant to decide ki breakfast to iske saath free rahega hi. All the hotels provide this. Okay. Then how is it normally advertised? Is it normally advertised as a package, like stay in a hotel? Same example. Normally they are advertising that hotel breakfast complimentary. So it's a composite supply. Different elements are not separately available. When you're going for a water purifier and that service, when you tell him to come and do the service, he will do the service and he will bring the spare parts also. So you're primarily asking him for water purifier service. In the process of part codes, he will only replace it. You don't have to buy it separately and give it to him. If there is specialized water purifier repair, not all repairs you can say falls under this example. Water purifier repair falls under this. Okay. If there is some other repair for which the parts are not available with him, you're buying separately, then they are different supplies. But in case of water purifier, the water purifier fellow only comes, does the cleaning of the AquaGuard. If there's any part goes, he will only replace it and give you a consolidated bill. What is the principal supply there? Purification, not replacement of that parts. Okay. Then different elements are an integral part of one overall supply. It should be an integral part of an overall supply. So these are the various criteria. Okay. When we are discussing the last criteria, determining elements are an integral part of one overall supply, which means you're buying it will always generally be with the operating system. You have to only choose whether you want Microsoft or you need a Ubuntu software, or the operating system, whether it be Linux or some other operating system. So you will come with the notion that when I'm buying a new laptop, it will have a operating system. Okay. We are. Unication, one is taxable, another one is exempted in composite supply, then value will determine taxability. Yes, the value will be determining the taxability. Assets taxable at 12%, installation chargeable at 18%. Given single invoice, is it composite supply? Yes, it is composite supply. And we have to collect two different rates? No. Since it is bundled, then we have to charge the price of the principal supply. Clear? So this is composite supply, various parts are there. Now we'll go to mixed supply. What is mixed supply? Two or more individual supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof, which is made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person. So opposite of composite, here also two or more individual supplies are there. There it is not individual supplies, it just says two or more supplies, but here there are individual supplies, two or more individual supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof, which is made in conjunction with each other. Matlab दोनों को they have attached together and supplied it. When they are made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person for a single price. Okay, two or more products are bundled together for a single price, but does not constitute a composite supply. There also there are two or more supplies for a single price, but it is a composite supply. Anything other than composite supply is a mixed supply, which means there it is naturally bundled. Yeah, it is not naturally bundled, which means it is opposite. What is it? Artificially bundled. So if you artificially bundle two or more supplies, it is a mixed supply. Transactions consist of supplies not naturally bundled in the ordinary course. And what is it taxed at? It is taxed at the highest rate. Now, what could be an example of mixed supply which is not naturally bundled? So what is not naturally bundled? Artificially, I will bundle. Example, gift hampers. I will purchase a gift hamper of a toothpaste. Toothpaste, toothbrush, and a shaving cream is given. Can I purchase this independently? Yes. Are they both all together that I should purchase toothbrush and toothpaste together only? No, I can get toothbrush separately, toothpaste separately, but they are bundled together and given to me, which means this is a not naturally bundled. This is artificially bundled. There are two or more supplies. Yes, two or more supplies. Is it artificially bundled? Yes, artificially bundled. So it falls under the category of mixed supply. Is there a single price he's charging? Yes, he's charging a single price. तो फिर क्या लगेगा? So GST, which is the highest rate, will apply. Example, say toothpaste is at 5%, toothbrush is at 12%, and that shaving cream is at 18%. So then on the whole, one price is charged, GST has to be charged at 18%. Highest rate, it should be taxed at the highest rate in the various supplies. Both the cases highest rate will apply? No. In case of composite supply, highest rate will not apply. In case of a composite supply, what is the GST rate on the principal supply? That will apply on the whole thing. But in a mixed supply, what is the GST rate, highest rate? That will apply. So that's a difference between composite supply and mixed supply. Clear? Supply, composite supply, mixed supply. I will take you through the multiple choice questions to understand. Mr. A has imported interior design services from company X, who is in USA, for a payment of 50,000 pounds for his house construction in Hyderabad. Is the service treated as supply or no? What is the answer, do you think? No, yes, does not cover, treated as supply, various options. Good. Most of you have given a correct answer. The answer is B. Yes, because import of services is treated as supply even if it is not received in the course or furtherance of business. Second option. Second question. United Breweries bought an asset on 1st January 2015 and has now made a permanent transfer or disposal of that asset without consideration. Is it treated as supply or no? Okay, a lot of confusion in the second option, the second question. Second one, many are saying answer B. Yes, Unnikrishnan has given the correct answer. The answer is D. Why is it D? For the simple reason that, when GST came in, when did GST come in? Date of birthday of the GST. First July 2017. Very good. Everybody is aware of this, that it is 1st July 2017. And this asset was brought before July 2017, which is in 2015, which means I have not claimed the ITC. And now on the permanent transfer disposal of asset, we have read that no, that it should have claimed ITC. If they have not claimed ITC, then it is not a supply. So the answer is D. Since ITC was not claimed and there is no consideration, it is not a supply. Okay. Very good. That's why this type of tricky questions can erupt anywhere. Let's go to the next question. Goods means every kind of movable property other than money and securities, but includes so and so. The term money used in the definition does not include Third option, various question. Third, people are saying money order, 3A, 3C. I've got all the options, A, B, C, D. Everybody is given this option. No majority over here. Money does not include. Indian legal tender is money. Money order is also money. Currency that is held for its numismatic value. You're holding a 10 paise coin, which is worth, say, 1000 rupees. Is it money? You cannot use it, but still it has a value of 1000 rupees for a 10 paise coin because such coins are not available, which means it is held for its numismatic values, which means you're trading it as a goods, not as a money. That's why currencies which is held for its numismatic value is not a money. So the correct answer is C, because this traveler's check is also money because they give you a traveler's checks to be used. So traveler's checks, money orders, demand draft, Indian legal tender, all of this is money, but currency which is held for its numismatic value is not. Understood? Meaning of money. So the correct answer is option C. Currency that is held for its numismatic value is not money. It is it takes the character of a goods. Next, Mr. X imported professional services in the course of furtherance of business from his son, Mr. Y, without consideration, who is staying in New York. Is it treated as supply or no? Both option A, B, C. Again, wow. These questions are really complicated. That's why this is causing this confusion that some people are seeing A also, B also, and C also. Okay, importation of services, you have to be very careful. You had the chart, right? Service, service received from Sun, related party. So no GST. No, that's not the answer. Even if you import anything related persons, then Schedule 1 says that even if it is without consideration from a related person, will be treated as a deemed supply, which is option B, which says that will be treated as a deemed supply even though there is no consideration. So don't expect the answers that they will give Schedule 1 itself. You know Schedule 1 is there, but you have to connect it. Schedule 1 means that it is importation from a related person and there is no consideration. It is a supply. So in this case, it is from a related person, right? Son is a related person, no consideration. It is treated as a deemed supply. Okay, deemed supply means Schedule 1 is a deemed supply. It is not a supply, but Schedule 1 is calling it as a supply. That is the meaning of deemed supply. Next MCQ. Which of the following oh, which of the following activities are not treated as supply? Okay, this I will answer this because we have not discussed this in detail. Supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration is a supply because it's there under Schedule 1. But it says only supply of goods in that Schedule 1. I will take you through that Schedule 1, understand this better. Schedule 1 said supply between related persons, this is fine. Then principal to agent, only supply of goods and not supply of services. Because Schedule 1 specifically says that any supply of goods by the principal to agent is covered under Schedule 1. On supply of services, they have not said. That's the reason supply of services will be outside the scope. They are not treated as supply. Answer will be option number B. Clear? Let's move to the next one. Mr. A is a publisher who's asked Mr. B, who is a proprietor of printing press, to print his scripts as books. Mr. B accepted his proposal and printed the books. While printing, Mr. B used his own papers to print the script. Is this transaction treated as supply of goods or supply of services? It is used, paper is used for printing, therefore treated as supply of goods. Neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Even though paper is used for printing, supply of printing is a principal supply, therefore treated as supply of service, not falls under supply. Correct, Navya, you have given a correct answer. Yeah, Pooja Bhumika Sena. Yes, it is. Correct answer is C. Because when you're giving, he's using his paper. Even though paper is used for printing, supply of printing, why I'm giving him for printing? That's why printing is the principal supply. Therefore, printing is a service. So it will be treated as a supply of service. This is what is clarified through a circular as well. Correct. Everybody has understood the circular very well. Correct answer is C. Servicing of cars include both supply of goods and supply of services. At what rate the goods and services are separately in the invoice? Manish and Pooja have given a correct answer. Bhumi, your answer is wrong. Okay. So the correct answer is B. Respective rates will apply, because read the question. Is it a composite or a mixed supply? It says servicing of cars, and if the value of spare parts and labor charges are indicated separately in the invoice, which means it is not a mixed supply for sure. Because if it become a mixed supply, then one price would have charged. They have charged separately. The value of spare parts and value of labor charges is there separately. Now it can be a composite supply if they have charged, because I'm going only for servicing of the bike and spare part becomes a ancillary thing. But if they have mentioned separate value, not a composite supply. In composites and mixed supply, there'll be one value. In case there is no one value for it, then it is a separate supply. The respective rate for spare parts and the respective rate for the services will apply. Okay. Mr. A sends goods to Mr. B, who is a job worker for packing of the goods in a corrugated boxes. Is it treated as supply of goods or supply of services? What the transaction of Mr. B? Okay, lot of confusing answers here. D, does not transfer title of ownership. No, what is the job work doing? Job work is providing a service. So the correct answer is B. It is treated as a supply of service. He is not acting as an agent or anything. He is doing it in his principal capacity as a job worker. Okay, so it's a supply of service. Next question. Mr. Deepa is applying for bank exam. She is supposed to pay application fees through a demand draft. Now, Mr. Deepa went to a bank and made application to convert money into demand draft. Bank charges the service fees for converting money into a demand draft. Is this transaction amounting to a supply? Yes, no, mostly correct answer. 9 answer is B. Yes, because consideration charge for conversion of money from one form to another form is a service. Therefore, it's a supply of service. Now, last question for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Under which circumstances donation is not chargeable to GST? Under which circumstances donation is not chargeable to GST? Manish and Pooja have been giving correct answers. Appreciate that. Very good. I hope you're understanding the concepts as well. Yes, correct answer is C. donation made for philanthropic purpose is outside, but for commercial purpose, it is for advertisement, then it is chargeable to GST. Okay, very nice. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, happy to ask now, or if you happy to solve it now, or if you want to take some time, you can take it later also. Okay. If there are no questions, we'll wind up for the day. We'll catch up again on Monday then. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hope you understood the concept of supply, which was very important, in detail. Yes, sir. Over.